Delighted to be back recording the Willie Morgan Show with the main man, of course, Manchester United legend and icon, Willie Morgan. Before we start today, I just want to thank all of our listeners. We have listeners in the UK, the US, Italy, Colombia, Australia, Ireland, Canada, Greece, Portugal, Germany, South Korea, Sweden, Malta, the Netherlands, Belgium, the Philippines, and Spain. We're going global, Willie.
Is there anywhere left?
I don't think so. As I said to you before we came on air, I just wanted to mention those countries that I've got the data for, and as I say, we're going global. It's incredible.
Well, it's nice, and I wish everyone from every one of those countries all the very best. I hope you're all safe from this virus that's going around. And thanks for listening. It's nice. We've got lots of friends around the world as well, and it's a nice thing. So thanks for listening.
Talking about something that's closer to home, Scotland have qualified for a major tournament for the first time since 1998, Willie.
It's fantastic. You know what he's done. What he's done is fantastic. You take your hat off to the guy. As you said before, he's not got a lot to work with, and it's amazing. And by the way, they played very well. It should never have gone to penalties, but they played very, very well. And he's doing a great job. Absolutely fantastic job. He reminds me of the old managers. He doesn't seem to be trying to overcoach people, just picking his team and letting the lads go out and do the job. I was listening to the England manager, Southgate, the other night after the match, said how well Grealish played. He just got beat 2-0. And he came up with that word. Well, he had a couple of very technically good points. Technical? What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Technically, he had a couple of good... Anyway, you know my thoughts on coaches. But it's sad. Don't forget, all my family are English, so I was in a very awkward situation when they didn't qualify. And most of my friends are English down here. So the one thing that was lovely, I had a phone call right after the match. I was in bed. We just finished, gone to bed, got to sleep. Phone rang. Bill McKenzie. Did you watch the match? Oh, was it? So Bill, don't phone me that late again. Yeah, it was nice. You know, Bill's one of the great Scotland supporters and go all over the world with him. In fact, most of the lads from up there in Inverness, they're all big Scotland supporters. So it's great. It's great.
A lot of people want to know your opinion on Scotland, Willie. We're going to the Euros next summer. We're in a group with England, the Czech Republic, and Croatia. Do you think Scotland could give England a game?
We have a team down here in Knutsford, a little village. We could give England a game. What are you talking about? Give England a game? Of course they give England a game. Not in question. I mean, they just got beat again by, they're not qualified. They're nothing special at all. And unfortunately, Southgate is a nice lad. Coach, technical. Pick a team, pick a blend and let them play. Don't start talking about technically that was a great throw in. What does that mean? It's ludicrous. And of course we can give them a game. It'll be very interesting next year. There's nothing, there's not a lot between all the teams in the world at the moment, including Brazil, who have obviously over the years been the great team. Everyone wants to see Brazil play, including me. And but even them now, they struggle. They're not great anymore. So no, Scotland's got a good chance as anyone.
One of the first questions we've got is from Will. He's saying, I can't believe I've just found out the attendance at Hampden when you qualified with Scotland, Willie, was 96,000. Were you aware of the crowd noise when you played in that match?
We were. Hard not to will. It was one of those evenings that I've said it's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. To win that night against the Czechs was unbelievable. Yeah, you could hear the noise. It was incredible. And watching the lads the other night after the final whistle when they're all running around crazy, I know how they felt. It just a great, great feeling. And yes, you can hear the crowd. Believe me, you can hear them.
I think you're right. It's one of those things where fans are passionate for their club sides, but especially in Scotland, the fans are absolutely crazy, and the Tartan Army, as you know, follow the nation everywhere. For you, being down south when you played, Willie, how much did it mean to you personally when you got to play in front of the Tartan Army?
They were, obviously I left home at 15, as you know. So I didn't really know too much about coming from the village. No TVs and no nothing. We didn't really know too much. And it was only really when I came up to play the first home match at Hampden that you realised what it meant to people. Phenomenal. And the great supporters. We all the years that Scotland struggled, they were still there, and they're fantastic to be around. And wherever they went in the world, everybody wanted to be around them because they weren't fighting, they weren't doing anything. They just wanted to have a drink, be happy, and enjoy themselves. So, no, they're fantastic. The Tartan Army is fantastic.
They certainly are, and fingers crossed we can have the Tartan Army at the games next summer when the tournament kicks off.
Yeah. I hope all this is, and now they've got vaccine, they've got this, they've got that. Hopefully, the crowds will be back and that people will be able to travel to the games and enjoy them. It's just a pity the other night that they didn't have 50,000 of the Tartan Army at that match when they qualified. It'd been great for them. But nevertheless, let's hope next year. We can only hope.
We need to go on now, Willie, to Manchester United. We talk about Manchester United on every show. Of course, you're an icon of the club. Paul Pogba, Willie, is playing for France this week, and he's caused controversy by saying that being away with France is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I wish he'd stay there. That'd be a bigger breath of fresh air if he stays in France. You don't need him back. So, not for me. You know my thoughts on Paul Pogba. He's a nothing player. He's average, extremely average. And I saw he was saying the other day in the paper, I think he's getting his form back. Well, he didn't have any form to get back. He's just an average player. Why Marino bought him, nobody knows. It's a crazy buy. He'll always be what he is. And I've told, and his agent, that dummy, all the things he's said in the past, he should never be at Old Trafford. He should be gone now. And hopefully he will go.
I think it's something that definitely will finally be resolved in January or the summer. I think the club have to make a decision whether they stick with him or sell him. And I think you're right. I think most fans now are ready for him to move on.
Not most. They're all ready for him to move on. And you have to look. I mean, Ollie, he's got him on the bench now. This supposedly he's this, he's that, he's the next thing. He's a bit player. So why wouldn't you sell him? They should have sold him when they could have got a big price for him. They won't get as much for him next year, but nevertheless, he should be sold anyway and give him away.
United, before we talk about this week's game, I want to speak to you, Willie, about Marcus Rashford. He's had his campaign for free school meals, which has been very successful. And as we speak, he's just launched a new campaign where he is teaming up with, for the life of me, I can't remember, he's teaming up with one of the main publishers in the UK to ensure that children of primary school age get access to books from a young age, because he was saying that he didn't have access to books personally until he was in his late teens. How important is that, and how good a message is that from Marcus Rashford?
I think I'll send Marcus one of mine anyway, so he could have a read of that and bring him back up to date. But no, what he's done is fantastic. No child should be deprived in this day and age. So I wish him all the best. And I just think it's amazing. Why should any child be deprived of A, food, and B, reading material or just learning, whatever it may be? Every child should have the same. I think you take money out of the equation, and they all should have the same chance in life. And I think what he's doing is brilliant. And I also rate him as a player anyway, so he's a good lad all round.
One of the players I want to ask you about, well, he's young Mason Greenwood. He's having a wee bit of trouble at the moment where people are questioning his attitude, people are questioning his form. He is very young, he's only 19 years of age. What would you say to him if you had the chance to sit down with him? Because he obviously wants to emulate yourself and establish himself either up front or on that right wing.
He, again, I think he has great talent and he's got a chance to be a great player. At the moment, he's a good player. He could be a very good player and then he can be a great player. It's, you know, he's a young lad, he's come into the team, he's got all this publicity and it's difficult to handle it. He's not handled it very well. You know, he's got into one or two stupid situations that he shouldn't have done. But that's his age, but he can still play. And all he's got to do is just knuckle down and get on with playing football and forget about the rest. But, you know, in the media now, it's a different world from when we played. We didn't have the problems that these lads have. You know, we could get away with nearly anything. Nowadays, you can't get away with nothing. So I don't know who his agent is, but hopefully he's got someone who can just put a quiet word in his ear and he'll go on and he'll be a great player. So either on the wing or up front, whichever. You know, he's one of these players that could do either, but he's got to make up his mind, or the manager has to make up his mind. That's your position. Go out and play in that position and just get on with it. So hopefully it'll all come good for the lad.
United are playing at home this weekend against West Bromwich Albion. Do you expect United to win this game and hopefully make a statement to the fans that they can turn the corner?
Well, after 3 home defeats, you know, it's not the best thing to look forward to. But West Brom, yeah, my good. Callum, you could get 5 from your place, and I can get 5 from the household. We could beat West Brom. So yes, I expect United to win this week. I really hope they do, and just put it to bed, and you know, just get on with getting back up the league again. So you know, we had a couple of good results, and away from home, obviously. But I think the win at the weekend, they'll win. So, got my fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, one of our listeners has got in touch to say, it's Glenn Meyer. He said, Willie, given how much we need a right winger now, why don't you phone Ollie and speak to him about a comeback? I'd certainly pay to see you play again.
Oh, Glenn, I've been in the attic looking for my boots, but I think they've all been eaten away. So, no, my God, most clubs, the wingers from my era, not just me, there were so many great wingers. What people would give for a winger now. You know, unfortunately, coaches don't want wingers. They want people who just pass the ball backwards, keep possession, sideways, backwards. A winger's job is to take, every time you got the ball, you weren't supposed to pass it back. And 99 times out of 100, you didn't. Unless it was one of the suicide balls that we got occasionally. You took the full back on. That was your job. That's what we did. And it'd be great to get wingers back in again. You know, most of the people who do go wide, they're not wingers. They're centre forwards. You look at Martial, you look at Rashford. They're not wingers, and it's unfair to judge them when they're wide. And I hope I don't know, until you stop coaching kids at a young age and just let them develop into the position that they're going to be very, very good at. Then you'll get wingers back and you get proper players back again. So we'll see, Glenn. But yes, I would. I would love just 1 week. 1 week's wages would be enough. That'd keep me going for the next 20 years. No, it'd be great, especially on the pitches. Oh, the pitches would be a dream to play on these pitches.
You mentioned it being a dream. That leads us on perfectly to our next question. John Casey wants to know, how do you think the old-fashioned wingers would fare in today's football?
I would play till I'm 90. It'd be that easy. There's no defenders. You could play till you're 90. Honestly, it'd be. I mean, I got asked the question about Nobby. Could Nobby play in the modern? Of course he could. He'd be a superstar in the modern game. Brilliant. As probably 90% of the people from the 60s would be as well. No, it'd be a winger's dream. Can you imagine playing against Shaw or any of the fullbacks? It's a dream. They can't defend. You go past them with a blindfold on. Think about that one, Callum.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. I think it would be interesting to see yourself on the modern pitches where it's like a bowling green, where you've got defenders who, as you say, aren't defenders first and foremost. They consider themselves to be wingers. I think you'd be scoring at least 30 a season.
Well, most of them are failed wingers. That's why they're at fullback, wing back, or whatever they call themselves these days. Oh my God, it'd be a dream. And apart from that, they're not allowed to tackle you. It's incredible. It's a different world. You can imagine telling one of the old Don Megson or Ronnie Moran or one of the old fullback, oh, don't forget you can't tackle the winger. You're not allowed to tackle because they would laugh at you. It's I watch it and think sometimes. I mean, I obviously don't think about playing, but sometimes when I'm looking at it, I think, what a dream to be playing now on the pitches mainly, and against no defenders, people who can't defend. There's no Tony Dunns anymore. There's no Ray Wilsons. They've all gone. You know, it's a different game. They're failed wingers. Most wingbacks, they call wingbacks now, I know. They're just failed wingers. So they'd be a dream to play against.
Mark Freeborough has got in touch to say, if you had to choose two footballing idols, who were they for you when you were growing up?
Mark, and again, sadly, because we didn't have TV or anything at all, we listened to it on the radio, and of course people talking about people who had gone to the game. There used to be a bus went from the village to Celtic, and then a bus went to Rangers as well, and they come back and tell you about the players. And the two, one in particular was Willie Fernie. He was an inside left, and he could dribble. And of course, at school, you always picked him. You know, when you're playing football at school in the playground, you obviously, I want to be Willie Fernie. You know, and somebody else said, I want to be Willie Fernie. I said, no, you can't be Willie Fernie. I'm Willie Fernie. You're always picking a player. Willie Fernie and Charlie Tully were the two players. Charlie Tully was a left winger. Willie Fernie played inside left to him. I mean, the old Celtic forward line, I think Neil Mochan was the centre forward. John Higgins on the right wing. I'm trying to think who was inside right. Oh, Callum. I'll have to think about the inside right. Anyway, Willie Fernie and Charlie Tully would be the two players that, even though I didn't see a lot of them, it was their the history of them and the fact that they, you know, your dad telling you, oh, he could dribble past 10 men, he could do this, he could do that. So they'd be the two. And then, of course, when I got a little bit older, after watching Brazil in the early 60s win the World Cup and watching Pele, you know, everyone, I mean, he was a genius. He was the greatest player that ever lived, up until Messi. I think they're both equal. There's not one really better. But up until then after that, I said Pele was, and of course I got the chance to play against him 2 or 3 times and meet him, and it was a dream come true for me.
Jackie Edge, massive fan of the show. Hello to Jackie. She is asking, who did you get on best with off the pitch at each of your clubs? United, Burnley, Bolton and Blackpool.
United, Burnley. Well, first of all, Burnley. Don't forget, I started as a 15-year-old. So we were on the ground staff. You didn't become a pro overnight. You were on the ground staff till you were 18. Then you turned full professional. So all my pals on the ground staff, oh my God. And the one I shared a room with, shared a house, digs with, Brian O'Neill. Brian was a great friend. Stanton Ent. We went on to be a manager Burnley, Stan. Danny Hurd, Bill Poynton, oh my God, Hughie Singer, Derek Chambers. We all mated about together. We were all very, very friendly. And then when I got into the first team, I became very friendly with Jimmy Anderson. Although in those days, you know, the young lads you didn't go out with the older players. The young lads went out dancing, and the old players went home to their wives. So we, and then at United, again, we I don't know, got on with Paddy Crown, obviously, Dennis, Nobby, played golf with Bobby, Bill Phelps, Alex Stepney. We all got on, everyone got on well together. George didn't play golf, but we got on great, you know, with other things with George. Blackpool, the only reason I went to Blackpool was because of Alan Ball. Alan was one of my 2 great friends in football. And Jackie convinced me it was a great idea. It wasn't, even though the people at Blackpool were very nice. Bolton, again, Peter Reid, Frank Worthington, Neil Watmore, Sam Allardyce. They were all, just everyone got on well with each other. And at that time, Peter Thompson, when I first joined Bolton, Peter Thompson was on the left wing, who'd come from Liverpool. A lovely lad, great player. So, I mean, didn't have outside of where I played, Jim McCalliog and Alan Ball were my great friends, but got on well. I mean, most players in those days got on well together. So I hope that answered the question, Jackie.
Jim's got in touch. She's a Liverpool fan and says, Willie, who is the greatest player to have played for Liverpool? My favourite player is George Best, even though I'm a Liverpool supporter.
Well, thanks very much. Liverpool. Oh, they've had lots of great players. Person, I've just mentioned one, Peter Thompson. Peter Thompson, a left winger. He was fantastic. Great winger, Peter. Roger Hunt. Roger, what a goal scorer. I mean, and a great guy. Good golfer as well. But it depends what position you're looking at. You know, Ron Yates, great centre half. And that's what he was, a centre half. And again, a good friend of mine who I started playing against when he was at Blackpool, Emlyn Hughes. Got on great with Emlyn, and Emlyn was great for Liverpool. You know, he was great influence. Ian St. John, Ian Callaghan. I mean, they had loads of great players. And of course, the Nobby Styles, Tommy Smith. So Smithy was great in his position, Tommy Smith. So, you know, you had so many great players. So many great players. and a great team and a great manager.
Talking about the managers, I tonight spoke to Johnny Owen, who has directed a film called The Three Kings. It's about Sir Matt Busby, Bill Shankly, and Jock Stein.
Yeah.
In terms of those managers, you obviously played under Sir Matt. You know Jock Stein well too. What do you think it was that made those managers so iconic?
They came from working class backgrounds. They're all from mining communities. They were all good players, and they were managers. Really that simple. It's funny because all three of them, when I signed for United, Liverpool tried to sign me as well. Bill Shankly had come in, and then of course Jock Stein twice came to try and sign me when I was still at Burnley, when I was 18 and when I was 23, when I went to United. And I got to know, I didn't know Bill that well. I met him a few times. He was great company. Shanks was great company. And they were all great friends. People say, oh, the hostility between, they were just great friends. They all got on well together. And all just great managers. Just a shame that there's nobody like them anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think Scotland will produce another manager like those three or a Sir Alex Ferguson anytime soon?
But they're not going to, when you say, but they're not producing managers. It's coaches. You can't get a job without a coaching badge. Why do you need a coaching badge? What does that do? Why would you play or have anyone in your team that you have to tell how to play? A manager didn't. The manager just picked his team because you were the best person in that position. He just picked a team. So when you're looking at managers, I think the lad, obviously, McInnes, his name, he's done phenomenal to do what he's done. Now, I don't know how much he coaches. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he just manage. But all those three managers would be amazing now. Amazing. Really. You'd have the best teams in the world with those three people managing now, with all these coaches around. It'll come back one day. Maybe not when we're on the planet or when I'm on the planet. Manager will come back, and there'll be a manager, not a coach.
One of the things that intrigues me as well is a question here from John. He's asking, how important is the right-hand man of the manager? Because of those three we've talked about, you think about Sean Fallon, you think about Bob Paisley, you think about Jimmy Murphy. How important is a strong right-hand man?
Well, it's not so much strong. They just work as a team. There's no, I'm the boss, you do this, you do that. They just worked as a team. One was called the manager, one's called the assistant manager. They were obviously both great. They all knew the game. They were just managers. If they wanted to be, well, Bob Paisley went on, obviously became a manager. Unfortunately, Jimmy was just a bit too old, or he would have taken over from Sir Matt. It is important, but it's important that you don't have to watch your back. The nice thing about those combinations, they didn't have to watch the back. There weren't any knives going in when they weren't there. Whispers going around and that. They were a team and they were in together. So, and it made a big difference. And we, certainly at Man United, even at Burnley, Harry Potts and Jimmy Adamson became assistant manager. They were great. They were great together. You could go to either one if you had any sort of problem or any query or something. And the same at United. Jimmy and Matt were just great friends and they worked as a team. So I don't know what it's like these days. It's different. There's a guy and he's still He's still at Man City. And he's been a second in command, apart from a very short period where he took over at Blackburn. Brian Kidd, he's a great second in command because he's not a threat. He's not looking for your job. He's not looking, just a nice guy, gets on great with the players, and is a great communicator for the manager. So it's an old world. The time we played, it was an old habits, but very simple. As I've said before, simple game played by simple people, made difficult by coaches.
Ian's question I find fascinating. I don't think you'll thank Ian for this. In your opinion, who is the better manager and why? Brian Clough or Sir Alex Ferguson?
Brian Clough. Cloughy, not the most likable of people, Cloughy. And again, his right-hand man, I'm just trying to think of him, and he was brilliant for Clough.
Peter Taylor?
Years and years and years and years. They worked as a team. They were brilliant. What Cloughy did with not the best players in the world. He didn't get the best players in the world in Nottingham Forest. But I tell you what, he won the European. Amazing what he did with people who were the best. So you have to look at what he did and how he did it. He was amazing at what he did. The only good thing is that England never appointed him as manager, because England would have been a great team if he had managed them. And of course, it was because the hierarchy, all the whatever you want to call themselves, these people who run the FA and all that, they were frightened of him. They were frightened of his reputation. But he was a brilliant manager, brilliant man manager. He got players to play way above themselves. All players, his whole team. Alex, his record, he fantastic what he did at Man U. But he had all the resources, he had all the money behind him, but both great at what they did. But if I had to pick one, then obviously I'd pick Brian Clough.
That's why I love this show, Willie, because you're upfront and honest. You don't hold back.
Well, it's not holding back. It's just an opinion. It's someone asks you your opinion. It's easy to sit in the fence. It's very easy to sit in the fence. But it's just opinions, people's opinions, that's all. And football's full of them, as you well know. I mean, you can take 6 managers sitting at a game, you get a different report from each one of who's the best player, who did this, who did that. So it's just about opinions. The best people to ask about players are the fans, because they do know. And they tell the truth, because they've got nothing to lose. So you're asked a question, you're not going to go around shouting, well, I like him, I don't like him. But if someone's asking you a question, then I think you have to be honest. You have to be honest.
The last question we've got is fascinating. It's come in from Kim O'Connell. If you weren't a footballer, realistically, what job do you think you would have done?
If I wasn't a footballer, if I had a choice, I would love to have been a singer. I would love to be in rock and roll. That's what I'd love to have done. So, not that I can sing very well. Not too bad. Not great, but not too bad. But most of them couldn't anyway. They all had echo chambers. So they did. I've listened to them live. Yeah, probably that. I mean, obviously, before I became a footballer, the choice was a miner or a priest. I don't think I'd have been a good priest somehow. Oh, that answers your question, Kim.
Brilliant. As we say every single time we record, 3/4 of an hour, it just flies in like that. It's been a pleasure, Willie, and as I say, as I said at the start of the show, so many fans from around the world, which is fantastic, and hopefully we get even more questions in for our next show, because we're going to be joined by a very good friend of yours and an outstanding footballer, Jim McCalliog.
Great footballer. Great footballer. Jim's a great footballer. And first class guy. One of my best friends.
I can't wait to have him on the show. And as I say, we'll announce that closer to the time, the exact date we're recording, and make sure you get your questions in, because I'm sure Jim will have some stories about Willie that we've not heard on the show.
I hope not.
Anything to say before we go?
Get closed down.
Any message before we go, Willie?
Yeah, just as always, to all the people who are listening and the ones who are watching, keep safe. And in the words of one of the great Irish comedians, Dave Allen, may your God go with you.
What a way to end. Brilliant. Until next time, goodbye.